Hello, my name is Aaliyah,
and
and
in this
in this
policy
policy
presentation,
presentation,
me
me
and my
and
group
my
member
group member
Joshua are
Joshua
going to
are
be
going to be
discussing
discussing
um,
um,
public transportation and how it should be more easily accessible for college students. More specifically, we want to talk about De Anza and Foothill students. Many students rely on public transportation. So, what I mean by more accessible is right now, currently, there is a quarterly fee for both schools that you need to pay in order to have the VTA Smart Pass. And we want to discuss wanting to branch out the public transport access to have more accessible location for students. And according to the De Anza College official website, under VTA Smart Pass, it goes into detail about how the pass works, the region it can be used in, but most importantly, going back to what I said before, there is a quarterly fee, and depending on how many units a student has, that correlates with how much they have to pay per quarter. For example, students who have zero point 0.5 between zero point 0.5 and 5.9 units have to pay a $5.75 fee per quarter. Meanwhile, 12 units and more, like full time students, have to pay $7.75 uh, per quarter. With how things are now, routes are already pretty limited. They have very few areas. And earlier this year, there was a VTA strike, and the reason was the workers, they weren't being paid very well, so they basically said, well, if we're not getting paid, all lines are down. And that went on for about a week and a half. And I myself I use public transportation in order to get to college. It was extremely difficult that week to get to class, and I know it was for many other students as well. I personally noticed that some students didn't even come to class, and I assumed it was for that reason. There's also um, the uh, the economic standpoint of housing, where that is going up, and some students either have their own housing or contribute to having to pay for said housing, and it's it's cheaper for them to live further away from campus than closer. So by having to pay for the VTA Smart Pass per quarter, it will take a toll on them financially. And there is an increasing gap between students and accessible public transportation. According to an article According to an article titled "How California Can Help Transit Survive and Thrive" by Laura Tolkoff, she went into detail about how the California public transit has been changing over the years, and it especially was heavily impacted by COVID-19 alongside many other businesses. And one quote said, despite pandemic related losses, California is basically a cornerstone to our social safety net and ladder for economic opportunity, which basically meant that in order uh, that public transportation is what's keeping our economy strong, and that's what's helping a lot of residents in California. So by having for students to have easier accessibility to public transportation, and as well as either a reduced or have no fee, it will benefit them long term, especially within the financial aspect.
Thank you, Leo. Well, it's also like my brother personally would take public transit to class. And when the VTA strike happened, that really like affected my schedule, my parents' schedule, because we needed to make time to take him to class. So it doesn't just affect the students directly, it affects everybody connected to them. That's why it's so important that public transit is easily accessible to so many people. So like, what do we want to do about it though? Well, we propose that Foothill de Anza College District to fully subsidize VTA passes for FHDA enrolled students. This means we'd like to expand bus routes to more densely populated areas that have our district students. This way we can relieve financial burden and improve accessibility and, financial costs. Free public transit isn't anything new. Like if you were to look at San Francisco, for example, all youth can take public transit for free. And according to Off Campus, students are boosting public transit as key to affordability by Jack Guan. He states that discounted or free transit for students is not a new phenomenon, nor is it limited to those at a college level. And he also states how San Francisco is, I quote, even more generous with free transit passes for youth. This became universal in 2021. Being able to, as San Francisco is a whole densely populated city, it's very beneficial to so many people that public transit is free, so that people can get to school on time without worrying about financial costs or, losing time and not being able to make it for the bus. But how would we be able to do this? Well, we'd start a petition. That's where a lot of things start. We'd ask students on Foothill de Anza campuses to sign a petition encouraging for the Board of Trustees to prioritize VTA passes, expanding bus routes. This way, students would be able to speak their thoughts, honest thoughts about their opinions of this problem, this topic. And according to an article titled VTA bus route changes would impact students by Justin Guo and Anna Novoselov. Excuse me. Where they stated that when the Santa Clara Valley Transportation Authority announced the discontinuation of bus route 53 in the fall of 2017, de Anza College students protested against the decision. The route, stretching for more than 10 miles from West Valley College to the Sunnyvale Transit Center. For those who cannot drive by themselves yet, public transportation is a trustworthy service. This just goes to show the impact of a lack of public transit in student-dense areas. As said before, my brother's problem with public transit affected not just him, but myself as well. That's why these kinds of things matter. And we hope you see it too. Thank you.